Once you get past the contact stage, and I'll tell you about my projects and you tell me about your projects, once you get to the point where you're actually going to try to do something together, even if it's just to write a prospectus about somebody else, you have to establish a common computing environment. Your computer has to talk to their computer. If your word processor isn't going to transfer files to their word processor, you might as well give it up, because it's just never going to work. And we actually one time had exactly that happen. It became such a difficulty to transfer files back and forth with these this was some years ago. It used to be much more difficult than it is now, but it used to be that this Mac PC divide was pretty sharp, because it was so hard to send information back and forth across the top of that. So you have to get the right communication channel, and you have to figure out the right tools to be able to collaborate. And so as you work through the kinds of tools you need to look at the ways that the mechanical things that you have to do. So I just mentioned you have to have a word processors that talk to one another. Well, that's not too difficult these days. They all, if nothing else, you've got RTF files and text files that you can send back and forth. But you have communication channels. You have to figure out whether people, how they work on email, whether they can do Skype, whether they can do Tango or any of these other sort of video-based conferencing things. You need WebEx to do, or some tool like WebEx to do video conferencing. And sometimes setting those things up can be difficult. You get some people whose computing setup doesn't have noise-canceling microphones. They don't have headphones. And whenever you talk to them on WebEx, you get nothing but echoes going around and around the system. And so you have to work out systems that where you can reliably do those kinds of things. You're going to have to be sharing files constantly, and emailing them back and forth almost always leads to what's called the versioning problem. You get multiple people working on the same document, and eventually you reach the point where you've got two versions of the document that are different from one another. And you can't just pick one. You have to merge them together. And there are now tools that will help you do that. I think there's a merge feature built into Microsoft Word these days. But it's a pain to have to go do that. You need to figure out a work structure that allows you to avoid having different versions of things that are all valid that all have to be mechanically brought back together. We use a cloud-based storage service called Dropbox. There's lots of these, but this is just a place where you have a folder on your desktop and you can drop files into that folder. You can share that folder with anybody else in the world. The files, in this particular case, those files live on your computer so that you can edit them and work with them even if you're not connected to the internet. They live in the cloud so that you can, if you're on somebody else's computer, you can still get access to yours via the Dropbox website. And those same files live on the computers of everybody else that you're collaborating with. So everybody's got access to the same stuff. So we use those as a repository. Now, Dropbox is one of those companies that makes money by selling you space on their server. And they give you a gigabyte or something at the beginning. And so one of the issues you're always bumping up against is how much extra space do you have left? One way you get extra space without buying it is to recommend Dropbox to other people, and if they sign up, then you get more space. So in our center, we don't use Dropbox for archival storage. We just put that stuff on a regular server, but we use it for work in progress. This sort of stays within everybody's unit. Dropbox is just one of, there's many kinds of tools like that are out there. We use, it's critical, in any academic endeavor, you're going to have a bibliography of materials. And you're going to want to share those bibliographic materials. And it's not just a citation. You're going to want the citation. You're going to want the PDF version of the paper. You're going to want to tag them. You're going to want to write notes. You're going to want to share those notes with everybody. So you need a method for managing your bibliographic information. Endnote is one of those. Now there's an Endnote web version that works. For some reason, Endnote web doesn't speak to me. You know, some software, you get two programs, they do pretty much the same thing, and one seems rational to you and the other seems less rational to you. So you have to find the one that speaks to you you also have to find one that speaks to all your collaborators too, and so forth. We're using a service called Zotero, which I think came out of Carnegie Mellon. It's free. They also make money by selling you space on their server. But you can have group libraries, and these can be libraries open. The group can be anybody on the internet, or it can be a defined group of people. And when you're storing your PDFs there, you can't have a library that's open to the known world, because that would be a copyright violation, obviously. But so we have these online libraries. So I have a bibliography of 1,800 citations that relate to digital books in mathematics. Now, there's lots of stuff besides just books about electronic books and books about mathematics. There's all of the underpinnings there, but it's a large group of papers, and we have the PDFs for most of them. They're all in APA style, and Zotero will create APA 6 compliant bibliographic printouts for you. And so we put all of our stuff there so that we can share it among all of those things. So you need mechanisms like that for sharing things. We use a tool called Evernote, which is a note-taking tool. Once again, they sell you service. If you buy the premium account, you get somewhat better service and you get more space on their server. It's that same, but you can share. You have a note. You have notebooks filled with notes. You can share those notebooks, which appear then on everybody else's computer. And it also syncs across all of your devices. So I can read my notes on my laptop computer, my desktop computer, my iPhone, my iPad. So there's versions of Evernote that work on all of those different kinds of devices, which is something else that you have. These days, you don't have one device, you have many devices. And you need to be able to interact with your stuff and with your people on any of those devices. So the cloud is king these days. Everything you want to be in those kinds of places. Scheduling meetings, if you're collaborating with people, you're scheduling meetings with them, whether they're face-to-face meetings or email meetings or telephone meetings or webinar meetings and so forth. You need tools for doing that, because sending emails back and forth. Well, can you meet at 6 o'clock? Yes, I can, but Joe can't meet at 6 o'clock. He can only meet here, that doesn't work. Doodle, is it Doodle? Yeah. Yes, Doodle is a tool for doing that. You set up, and it's free, you set up a message gets sent to all of the people that you want. You specify some times you think that are available to hold the meeting. That's when you're available. And then you ask people to check off whether they can meet this time or that time or the other time. And you try to find some common time when everybody can meet, or you find a common time for the people that you for sure need to meet with can meet, and then everybody else is potluck. So you need tools for doing that kinds of things. You're going to have all of these PDFs that are stuck off in Zotero. You're going to want to annotate those. So you need a PDF annotating tool, something that you can suck that up into, that you can write on that tool. And you need a tool. We use one called a Goodreader. Is the one that we use. There's lots of them. Find the one that speaks to you. But the thing I like about Goodreader is two. One is it talks to Dropbox, so that if I want to annotate a PDF, I get it in Dropbox, and then I can download it to my iPad, which is my PDF annotating tool of preference. But you can do that directly. It'll talk to any server and download those things. Then it has all the standard annotation tools. You can highlight and underline, and you can attach little notes and messages and do all of those sorts of things. But they all do that. The thing about this one that I really like, that they probably all do now too, but this one does, is it will extract your annotations from the PDF and put them in an email. And so, and when it does the extraction, it puts in markers about where it extracted something. So if you highlighted something, it pulls out everything that you highlighted, and so forth like that. And it sticks all of this into an email, which you then can send to yourself. And now you have it in a text file, which you can then stick in as a note in Zotero, so you have all your notes there. Or you can email it to other people. This is what I thought of that paper, and so forth. So you can have multiple people annotating the same papers. You can merge all those together by being able to extract them. That's the key feature of it. Remember, you have to keep all of your stuff hot. You have to keep it flowing. You have to keep it able to move from device to device, from person to person to person. anytime something freezes out onto paper, you're in trouble, because to get it hot again is a huge amount of work. So you want to keep it hot from the beginning. So everything, and you want to keep it in these forms that you can move things around.
Yeah, and paper, and another tool that kind of does all that in one, it's a little expensive. I mean, I think it's $70. Papers 2 is another tool that kind of does what Zotero as well as the annotation does. And it also provides mechanisms for you to kind of collaborate and have circles of collaborators around different papers, and has like a scholarly community around different papers where you can kind of provide feedback. You can actually do little reviews of PDFs or articles that you read, et cetera. So that's another one of those nice tools that kind of does that. But everyone kind of has to purchase that tool to make it kind of work. I use it personally, and we have groups using it now.
We used papers for a while. We abandoned it and went to Zotero. Papers also has some of the search engines built into it to do searches. Unfortunately, the search engines they have, or at least the last time I looked, were slanted towards the physical sciences and the life sciences, and didn't search educational archives as well. We've actually had we've actually had great luck. If you're looking for a particular paper, you get the title, you just paste it into Google, and 95% of the time, it dumps it into Google Scholar is where it goes. It will pull up a reference to that paper, and quite often, if the PDF is available, you can quite often just one click and you get it'll download the PDF. If not, it'll take you to a place, wherever the publisher is or something that sometimes you have to buy these things. The other nice thing about it is it has the Google Scholar search has built into it the cited by list. So quite often you're not so much interested in that paper, but who else used that paper. And now you click on that, and now you get a list of all of those. And of course, now you have cited by links with all of those things. We have a process when we're building a bibliography. The trick is to find one good paper, one paper that speaks directly to whatever it is that you're looking for. And then you chase the reference list backwards in time. You look up all the papers that are on the reference list, and you look up all the papers that are on the reference lists of the reference lists of you go back as many iterations as you have time to go. But you also want to chase forward in time by using the cited by lists. You can sometimes get these cited by lists from publishers. If you go to the Web of Science, if you're working in STEM areas, those sorts of papers get cited in the Web of Science, which has these kinds of things. Whatever the tool is, you need to do these kinds of things, so you look for tools that do them. But it's remarkably how useful just Google Scholar is to find, particularly in education.
In Papers 2 now, the new version you can search directly in Scholar Google, right, which is wonderful because it does some of that built into the system.
When you're in those meetings, you need to record meetings with people. Now, if you're using video conferencing software and so forth, like WebEx has a button you push, and it records everything that happens on the screen and all the audio and so forth. But when you're in face-to-face meetings, you need to take records from there too. I personally am a terrible note taker. I have unreadable handwriting, and I can't talk and write at the same time. So I either have to have somebody else take notes, or I have to have some other tool. And who's heard of a Pulse Smartpen? Anybody? Okay, one person, couple people. A Smartpen, the company that sells them is LiveScribe, and I think that's on here someplace. It's a pen, looks like a regular pen, except it's really fat. And it has a speaker, and it has a microphone built into it. It also has a little video camera built into it. And when you buy the pen, you also buy a notebook of special paper. And it looks pretty much like ordinary paper, except it's tinged a little bit gray. And if you look at the gray paper very carefully, you'll see that it's covered by a collection of small micro dots of different colors. And it turns out the dots are arranged in unique patterns. And when you write on the paper, the video camera takes a video of your writing, and it knows where you are on the page because it's reading the pattern of dots. So, and it's recording it's making recording of what's being said while you write. It even has a pair of noise-canceling earbuds that have speakers in them, like regular earbuds, but they also have microphones in them. And it's the same technology as in a Bose headphones. And these are designed, and it plugs into the Smartpen. And this is meant to be in a conference hall type space and listening to a speaker. And I've been in rooms as large as the salons over here with the speakers, and in the back of the room, and I get a usable recording of the speaker. And so you can take notes as you write. You get this sound recording of the audio, and then when the speech is over, you can go back, and whenever you tap on the page in your notes, it jumps in the audio file to where that sound is. So you have now audio notes that are indexed by the written notes that you've taken. Now, some people take really good notes and so forth. All I can manage to do is to take an index. Bill's talking now about Fred. And that's all I write. But when I want to hear what Bill actually said, I can just tap on that. You can also, so you have these things on this funny paper. And the funny paper isn't very expensive. I got 4 very large spiral notebooks for $20 once. You can also, if you have a moderately good color laserjet printer, you can print out your own paper. And we do things where if we have an observation form, like for going into a classroom, we print the form onto the paper. We first print some paper, some of the LiveScribe paper, and then we send it through the printer again and print our form on top of it, and then take our notes in the Smartpen. So we're getting a recording of what's going on as well as our field notes. You can then extract this thing from the pen, and you can put it on your computer screen, and you see what you've written on the screen, and you can tap with your mouse to get the audio stuff. That is a file that you can then email to anyone, and they can go to LiveScribe and get the reader software for free, and so they can access these notes in the same way that you did it.